Hey everybody, Allie Bloyd here, and today I am going to talk to you about how you can make a big impact as a small business by utilizing your voice and talking about the issues that matter most to you without damaging your business and in fact actually growing your business. So, have you as a business owner ever wanted to share things that matter to you, yet you weren't sure how to do it in a way that was concise, that was clear, and that would not alienate your audience or a portion of your audience? I think all of us today are familiar with the term cancel culture. And cancel culture ultimately causes a lot of business owners to be afraid of using their voice and talking about the issues that matter most to them. And that's exactly what I want to show you how to do today. So what are we going to be talking about? We'll talk about what makes a business truly successful at its core and how you can utilize values-based selling to help your business grow. We want to talk about how we can leverage these social media platforms that ultimately are a big way that we grow our business and that we use to advertise, but actually use them to also share our message, use our voice, and talk about the things that are most important to us as business owners and members of our communities. We're also going to talk about how to create a lasting and deeper relationship with this audience that you are growing. So first, allow me to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Allie Bloyd, founder of Allie Bloyd Media, and I own a marketing agency and consultancy that specializes in working with local businesses and the marketers who serve them. I'm also a 2 Comma Club award winner from ClickFunnels, a contributor to Digital Marketer, Social Media Examiner, and many other marketing platforms and publications. I've been a speaker at Social Media Marketing World and other top marketing conferences, and I am a globally recognized expert on Facebook ads, Instagram ads, sales systems, marketing systems, automation, and more. But these are really just my business details. They're just the things that I am when it comes to my actual business. But is that all that I am? Absolutely not. So I am the mother of a 4-year-old daughter. I'm soon to be homeschooling her. I also recently bought a farm with my husband. We're going to be creating a sustainable homestead and animal rescue. I wrote a book called Uncensored America, Thought-Provoking Poetry on Faith, Family, and Freedom that was an Amazon bestseller. I'm also a Christian and a follower of Jesus Christ, and my faith is very important to me. I'm also a freedom-loving American, and I do TV and radio commentary on things like political, economic, and social issues, specifically as they impact local businesses and moms just like me. I'm also a lover of exercise. I'm a holistic health advocate, and I'm also a golfer. I enjoy being outside. I love nature. So these are the things that make me who I am on a level that's outside of business. So why do I tell you all of those things? Well, the truth is, to many people, those things matter. We as business owners, we are not just our business. We are multifaceted and we have passions, we've got opinions, desires, and values that are not directly related to our business. The truth is, though, that so many people in our audience can resonate with those things, but if they don't know those things about you, they can't do it. I think we've all heard the phrase, people buy from those they know, like, and trust. However, in order to like and trust you, people have to first know you. And you need to ask yourself the question, does your audience truly know you? Or do they just know your business credentials and qualifications? So now let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever purchased something from a business because you felt that that business aligned with your values? I want you to take a second and think about that. For most people, the answer is yes, they absolutely have. I also want to ask you another question. How many of you have not purchased from a business because you felt that they did not align with your values? That is another big answer for a lot of you. I'm sure that many more of you are going out of your way to avoid buying from businesses that you feel like are in direct contradiction to your values. The truth is, for most Americans, and people across the world, that is very, very common today. So values-based selling is really what we're talking about here. How sharing your values can actually increase your sales. So 83% of millennials say that they care about buying from businesses who align with their values. About 51% of Gen Xers care about value alignment, and 21% of boomers say that they buy based off of brand values. On top of that, 71% of consumers as a whole prefer buying from companies who align with their values, and 89% of US customers are loyal to brands that share their values. So this is a very common thing that we're seeing. However, if you want to leverage this data, your audience needs to know about your values. If you are staying out of these conversations, you may feel like it's helping your business because maybe people won't avoid working with you because they feel that your values are in direct contradiction or not in alignment to theirs. However, you're missing out on all of these consumers who specifically go out of their way to work with businesses whose values do align to their own. So people need to know your values if you are going to tap into this. Truthfully, this matters so much because without sales, you don't have a business. Sales is the number one thing that all business owners need to have in order to grow and succeed. And so if you really want to leverage the power of values-based selling, you can, and this will continue to build an audience of truly devoted fans, followers, and buyers, and also create a really loyal buying audience for your business. Personally, I believe that entrepreneurs are the people who can change the world. We are the doers. We are the ideas people. We are there to figure out solutions. We take action. We do not just sit on the sidelines waiting for someone else to come up with solutions to these problems. You also have extreme influence in your community and the world, whether or not you realize it. So small businesses, they support each other. They help create a thriving community. You actually are a huge part of the revenue that your city produces and create commerce in your local or national space. You create jobs and opportunities for other people, encouraging them in their personal growth. You're an innovator. You create solutions to tough problems that other people are simply not up to solving. And you inspire others to financial independence, freedom, and to consider getting into entrepreneurship. So again, if you have influence, why would you not be using it? Truthfully, as I mentioned before, most businesses who aren't using values-based selling are doing so because they're afraid. They're afraid of alienating their audience. They feel like they don't know what to talk about. They're worried about going against the grain and being singled out. And maybe it is that they just don't know how to communicate or share that specific message in the right way. So what I'm going to be talking to you about today is how to implement this without damaging your business, and in fact doing the opposite, helping your business grow. So there are 6 things that I've identified that you need to do to be able to implement this successfully. The first one is knowing your audience. The second is truly knowing your own beliefs and values. The third is going to be connecting your beliefs to your business. Number 4 is finding your voice so that you can most effectively utilize it. Number 5 is communicating effectively. This is a really important one. And number 6 is leveraging polarity. So we'll talk a lot more about polarity towards the end of this, but I'm very excited to dive in one by one and show you how you can utilize these 6 steps of implementation. The first one is knowing your audience. Does your audience actually align with your values? So my audience is primarily local business owners and other marketers that are serving local businesses. Because of that, there are very specific things that I am confident that my audience aligns with me on in terms of my values and my beliefs. One example of this was when lockdowns were being introduced. I was very adamantly against these, forcing local businesses specifically to shut their doors is not something that I believe is acceptable or really legal. Most of my audience, given that they are local business owners, They were with me on this. So I felt very confident in talking about these issues, knowing that yes, there would be a percentage of people who disagreed with me, and that's just fine. But overall, I know what my audience values on a deeper level. I know what they agree with and what they don't agree with. I've done a lot of audience research. Therefore, I have a lot of topics that I can speak on confidently because I already know that my audience is going to lean in that direction, and therefore they're going to not just approve of the message, they're going to feel more connected to it. The next one is knowing your beliefs. So in order to effectively share your beliefs and values, you have to be crystal clear on what those things actually are. You also need to know them so that you can stand firm in the face of opposition, because that's always going to come, especially in today's social media and digital world. So you've got to have sincere personal convictions because people can smell insincerity from a mile away. You don't want to be talking about things just to be jumping on the bandwagon of the latest hot button issues. You want to talk about things you genuinely care about. And if you can do that, people are going to see that passion. They're going to see those personal convictions. And whether they agree with you or not, they're going to know that you are standing up for what you truly believe in. You also need to be able to back up those values or beliefs with facts and evidence. This really comes down to doing more research, having a deeper understanding of why you personally believe what you do. And next, you've got to be able to defend this against criticism in a clear, calm, and concise manner. So again, on social media, this is a conversational type of media. You know that you are going to get comments and messages of support and also those of opposition. So one really great way to do this is first to read literature that does support your existing beliefs and talks about the deeper reasons why these ideas, values, or beliefs are valid. You really need to have those arguments in your arsenal. However, on the other side, you also need to know what those who do not agree with you believe. Sometimes that means reading literature that supports opposite beliefs. If you don't understand why someone would disagree with you, it's very difficult to have a productive conversation should they arise, and they will, and be able to clearly communicate your message. You really never want to act in a spontaneous or a reactive manner when it comes to defending your values or beliefs. You want to do this in a way that you are taking the time to really think about what it is someone's saying or asking and responding in a way that will not show your business in a negative light, but still really stands firm in what you believe in and tells people why you feel as though your values or beliefs are completely valid, though they may disagree with them. The next one is going to be seamlessly connecting your beliefs to your business. So you need to understand that not every single value is going to align with your business or audience. So you kind of need to pick your battles. Sometimes there are things that you may feel like you can't not speak up about. And I absolutely agree with that. I am the same way. There are things that transcend business and they impact all of us on a worldwide, national, or community level. And if you want to talk about those things, I would not suggest that you shy away from them. But overall, you should really focus on weaving specific beliefs into your messaging that actually tie in to your business. So I already gave you the example of me talking about my opposition to lockdowns. That directly relates to my business and my audience because that is the type of business that I've spent my career serving. That is a type of business that is specifically impacted by those rules and mandates and regulations. Therefore, it does tie into my business. There are going to be causes, there are going to be different volunteer opportunities or different things that you can do to serve in your community that you can tie back to what your business does. So there was a really great conversation I had with Leslie Lyons on my podcast not too long ago. And she was talking about how a lash company, an eyelash extension business, They might really tie their business into their support for women who have been in situations of domestic violence, because they are giving back these women the ability to love their eyes instead of looking at their eyes and seeing bruises and scrapes and eyes that have been swollen after experiencing these horrible ordeals. So that's a great example of how any business can tie something that they believe strongly in or are in support of or contribute to the cause of into their own business. You also need to understand how those relate to your audience and your industry. Again, it goes back to knowing where they tend to lean on those issues so that even if you do disagree, you can craft your message in a way that is going to show that specific audience or industry why you feel the way that you do. You also want to really get good at cultivating the art of storytelling and eliciting an emotional response. They say that facts tell, but stories sell, and that is absolutely right. You need to really get good at using stories to illustrate your point, because the same way that people don't always buy from a place of logic, they buy from a place of emotion. People are going to really think about things on a much deeper level or in a different way when there is emotion involved instead of just straight facts and logic. You also want to consider the impacts before you act. So before I wrote my book, Uncensored America, I had to really think if this was something that I wanted to do. If there was a negative response, was I going to be okay with it? If there was any type of backlash or criticism, was I willing to do this regardless of those consequences? And for me, the answer was yes. And I absolutely have not seen backlash or criticism or any negative impacts. In fact, the opposite. However, that may not always be the case. And so you do want to make sure before you go into this that you truthfully have thought about what the potential impacts could be and how you may handle that before you go down this road. Finding your voice and sharing your message is definitely a critical part of this. And there are 4 things that you can really do in terms of finding your voice. So the first one is to consider the medium. What medium is going to be the best fit for the type of content or information you're going to be publishing? So this could be social media posts. This could be podcasts. There may be people who would feel more comfortable doing this on the audio side without having their face on screen, and they are still able to share that message in a longer form medium. Video is also something I definitely recommend people get into, but it can feel a little bit more vulnerable. You can do short form or long form, but again, that really depends on you. Maybe it's something more like a blog post. So again, think about what medium might be a good fit, but you also want to do that in a way that considers your natural style. So what type of communication style comes most naturally to you? So for example, my book, Uncensored America, this is a poetry book. It is very much talking about critical issues that face our country, our world, our communities, our families, but it's in poetry. I didn't have to write a poetry book to share these things, but that is my natural communication style. I've been writing poetry since I was 5 years old, and it is one of the forms of content creation that comes most easily and naturally to me. So that was the format that I chose. Maybe you're a musical person and maybe you want to write songs. Maybe you are funny and you want to do skits or tell jokes or something like that to illustrate your point. So I personally believe that the creative arts are one of the single best ways to change culture and to change the world and to draw people's attention to very significant issues and change the way that they look on them. You can see this going back throughout history. So statues and paintings, these were things that were often done, many centuries and before that. And this was something that they didn't just utilize to make it pleasing to the eye. So many things that we can look on in art history really go back to the political, the social, the economic state of the time that they were living in, and they were using these pieces of art to really draw attention to them. You also see things such as theater. Shakespeare has had a tremendous impact on the theatrical world, and Shakespeare often talked about tough issues that were related to social and political topics. I do think that if you have any type of creative bone in your body, and most entrepreneurs do, whether they realize it or not, because you are in the business of creating, you need to ask yourself, is there a creative format in which I could communicate my message? Another great example of this would be cartoonists. So cartoons have often been incorporated into newspapers and political publications because cartoons, they don't even have words in them, but sometimes the image itself can be the most powerful thing that we can see to really make us think about something in a different way. So again, poetry, that's something that I am naturally gifted at. Poetry actually is a very powerful medium in communicating my message because it speaks to the universal more than the particular. It doesn't focus on specific people or events necessarily. It talks about topics and the eternal things that do not necessarily change. That can be more impactful in sharing what I want to share because people are going to be more open to it. It doesn't feel like you're forcing your opinion on someone. So you don't have to write an op-ed on something to do this. I really think you should lean into those creative mediums if those are things that you already have a knack for. But even if you don't, what is your natural style of communication? That is the direction that you should choose to move forward with. You also want to make sure that you can connect the dots for people. So we live in a world that is very used to reading just a headline and thinking that they're getting their news. They're also used to taking bits and pieces of information, and maybe they don't understand how they actually all tie in together. So if you are a big picture thinker, which a lot of business owners are, you really want to make sure that in sharing this message, you are connecting the dots for people to things that they would likely have seen or have read or have heard to the ultimate outcome or concept that you want them to think about. The next one would be to review whatever this is before posting. So this is very important regardless of if you're talking about issues that are more serious or your values or your beliefs. But you really want to watch or listen or reread whatever it is before posting that and ask yourself, could this be misconstrued in any way? Is this something that I feel like really communicates my point without taking aim at anyone specifically or doing so in a way that best represents my business? So this comes down to kind of doing this in a more slow, methodical manner as opposed to just being reactive, like I mentioned, and just posting whatever comes into your head at any given moment that you might regret later. I ultimately think that if you do this in a way that's very thoughtful, you're going to have a much better impact in terms of your ultimate goals. Now we're going to talk about communicating effectively to win friends and influence people. So again, we are trying to use these methods not just to share what it is we value most, but we do want to use the influence that we have as business owners. And we also want to really find people that will rally to our cause as well. We don't want to push people away. However, as we've already discussed, you're going to likely get the opposite reaction from a group of people, however large or small that may be, and you need to know how to deal with it. So my first suggestion is to keep the message focused. I have really paid attention throughout my life in general to human behavior and the way that humans respond to things and communication tactics. So it's something I'm very interested in, and I pay very close attention to what works and what does not, especially on social media. Because again, social media is something that you can look at any time. Maybe your emotions are really high and you're posting something just without doing that thought process to ask yourself, is this a good idea for me to be saying or sharing? And I have seen that there are so many different people that do this very poorly. However, I have really tried to use myself as kind of a test case to try out the different thoughts and strategies that I have on effective communication, especially when it comes to supporting my beliefs or values. So keeping the message focus is critical because ultimately, the more that you say and the more pieces of information you try and include in anything you're discussing, the easier it will be for someone to latch on to a small part of it and then try and make their response or their rebuttal only about that specific piece. It may be a very irrelevant piece as a whole to the topic that you are trying to discuss. And so saying less is definitely something that I would encourage you to do, especially in the written format. In video, it's a little bit easier because you can thoroughly explain what it is you're trying to share. You can tie back some of these concepts. You can talk about if this is a big topic or a small or insignificant point related to what you're discussing. And so you have a little bit more freedom in how you want to elaborate on those things, but keeping it very focused on the core topic that you want to share. A really good exercise for this is to use the text post option on things like Facebook. So that's when you're typing just a text post and you can select a colored background. So there are only so many characters that you're able to use before that option no longer becomes available. If you can craft your message to fit within that text post, typically it's going to have to be an incredibly focused message. So that's a really good exercise to try. The next one would be to ask questions. I firmly believe that asking questions is probably the most impactful way to communicate, especially when it comes to debating or rebutting or having discussions with those that do not share your beliefs or values. Asking questions is the way that you will be able to force people to think about things on a deeper level. So for example, if somebody is responding most likely in anger to something that you're saying, you can simply ask them a very short and specific question as opposed to giving some long answer rebutting what they've said. So that tends to send things down this spiral that never really leads anywhere productive. So some questions that you could consider asking are, what makes you believe that? Or do you think that's the whole story? Or what happens if you're wrong? Those are a few examples. There's so many more, and it could be just specifically related to whatever's being discussed. But again, keeping the message focused, even in your responses, this is critical. So if you say something that, again, is long and drawn out and gives a lot of examples, people will focus on the single sentence that they have some sort of knowledge or expertise or ammunition in, and then they will use that piece as a way to respond or rebut. If you don't give them the opportunity to do that, they will be forced to answer your question. And in doing so, they will be forced to really do a lot more thinking about why it is they feel the way they do or why they said what they said. I feel like most people are in that reactive mindset and they are just kind of spitting things out all the time. They're never really asking themselves why they believe what they believe. And so we really want to force them to do it, or we want to ask them a very specific question that they must answer that relates to the facts at hand. So again, this is kind of an art form, the question-based responses, but I would highly encourage you guys to look into that as deeply as possible because it's very effective, not just in business or in this specific topic, but in life, communicating with friends, family, anybody that you know or are speaking to. I would also suggest that you try and remove the opinion as much as possible. So you can discuss things without making it so dependent on your personal opinion. I try and do this as much as possible. It's really about presenting the facts, presenting the upsides and the downsides, the potential impacts, and the details of whatever the situation may be without telling people what I think about every single aspect. My goal is to simply draw people to the conclusion that they can arrive to on their own because most people in general, they're really not going to accept being told that they're wrong. It doesn't matter if they are wrong. They don't want to hear it, and they don't want to hear it from you. You need to be a catalyst for them coming to their own conclusions by presenting information in a specific way. And so the less you can impose your own opinion, the more that people will be forced to think about what it is you're saying as opposed to rebutting your specific take on it. So taking a different angle is another great way to do this. There are a lot of things that come up in the news cycle that you may want to discuss, but you don't have to talk about them in the exact same way that everyone else is talking about them. You can really look at these situations on a deeper level, ask yourself, is there something that ties into my business or something that I have a unique experience in? Or maybe it's just something that you're able to connect the dots with that other people may not do. Those can be really great ways to spread the word. And again, you don't look like you're hopping on the bandwagon. You are showing that you're thinking for yourself. Taking the high road is crucial. I never believe in attacking people. I never believe in really communicating from a place of anger or hatefulness. And one of the saddest things that I've experienced over the last 1.5 to 2 years, I'd say, is people are very angry and hateful. And I have seen so many people that wish death on others, and they wish extreme sickness on others. And they make these horrible comments that don't do anything to bring someone to their cause, but they show that there is a spirit of anger and hate and just nothing that I would ever want to be associated with, because it's not who I am. Even if someone is trying to attack you, or they are not taking the high road in how they're communicating with you, you do not have to be sucked into that. Again, the single question response is the most infuriating thing for people who are doing things like that, but it also prevents you from being sucked in to their negative energy and their very divisive tactics. So always do this from a place of truly trying to educate people, trying to help them see the truth, or helping them really understand things that they may not be aware of. You do not ever have to cut anyone down. You do not ever have to attack people personally. And this is something that turns me off instantly if I see it, and I will go out of my way not to do business with people who behave in that manner. So make sure that if you notice in yourself that you do those things, you're not ready to do these techniques that we're talking about. You really need to do some personal introspection before you figure out how to leverage values-based selling in your business, because those are the things that will hurt your business should you choose to do them. Number 6 is understanding the counter. So again, people are always going to have different beliefs and viewpoints. That's okay. That's also never going to go away. So no matter what you think, no matter what you believe, you will never convince everyone that your point or your way or your thoughts are the right ones. What you can do is try and share the information that would get them to either think about things in a different way, or show them that why the point of others who may differ from their own is in fact valid, regardless of if they share those opinions or not. So again, this could be reading literature that supports beliefs that you do not have. I think this is something everyone could benefit from doing quite a bit. And I actually get some of my best ideas in terms of things that I can do to actually make an impact in the world by reading the writings or literature of others who are dramatically different from me in terms of their values and their beliefs. This is also really important because it allows you to ask those questions that will force people out of their typical patterns of thought, or maybe the narrative that they just have going on in their head. Because the truth is, most people are somewhat programmed into believing what they believe or thinking about what they think about. And most of the time it's based on things they've heard other people say. It's not actually based on them thinking deeply about these things on their own. So if you can understand the counter arguments, you can very easily see the flaws in those counter arguments, and you can communicate questions especially, but also statements that will show the validity of your points. And again, even if people don't come to the same conclusions or don't agree with you, that's okay. But it will show that you are not believing something just to believe it or just because you've been told to believe it. It's because you truly understand the concepts behind it and you really want to try and make people think about the potential that they could be wrong or that they may not have the entire story. So number 6 of this strategy is leveraging polarity. So polarity is the willingness of a brand or business to take hard and fast stances on certain topics that possibly divide or further niche their audience. Polarity is something most people are terrified to do. And in fact, the first time I was really exposed to this concept was in Russell Brunson's book. I think it was Expert Secrets, and it talks about using polarity. And I even talked to my mom about this. I said, Mom, I've been reading this and ultimately I don't think that I'm polarizing. And I never wanted to be polarizing just to be polarizing. I think that that's fake. I think that people can, again, really identify when people are being insincere or when they're saying things just to get clicks or engagement. And I never wanted to be that. And fortunately, I've never become that. But over the last few years, I've realized that who I am as a whole is polarizing in today's culture. My faith is apparently polarizing. The fact that I believe in a limited government is polarizing. The fact that I believe in freedom of choice, freedom of decision, freedom of thought and of conversation, apparently that's polarizing. And so once I saw that, it made me feel a lot better about leaning into this method because I knew that I'd never sought this out. I'd never tried to do this intentionally. But I had noticed that, what I think and what I believe and the views that I have are not necessarily mainstream anymore. And I wasn't afraid to talk about those things. And ultimately, polarity can be great because you do not need everyone in the world to buy from you. You never are going to get everyone in the world to buy from you anyway. So what you need to do is say, who are the people who are most likely going to not just be buyers, but raving fans of my business. Those are that are going to spread my message or my products or my services with everyone they know, the people who are going to be the most committed buyers. And that's what leveraging polarity can allow you to do. It is further dividing or niching down your audience, but in the best possible way, in the way that gives you a more committed audience that will stand by you and stand up for you in any situation. So I want to go through some examples here to actually show you what this can look like in action. So if you guys are listening to this and not watching this video right now, I'm just going to kind of talk to you about what I'm seeing. And if you are watching this, then you're going to get those visual examples as well. So this was a post that I made probably in November of 2020. And the image is just a picture of me in a shirt that I actually designed. It has a little graphic of what looks like a Capitol building and it says question everything. So these shirts were also something that I do in my spare time as a way to use my creativity to just kind of get the energy out, get the thoughts out. And as a creative person, this works really well for me. So I just spend time doing different types of creative projects that allow me to channel that energy in a positive way. So this post that accompanies this photo reads as this. Of the 250,000 local businesses who were forced to shut down this year, over 60% are now permanently closed, Yelp reports. So that is a stat by a trusted source, okay? Leading with something like that can make your commentary stronger. Then I have the word while, ... So I'm connecting the dots here. Jeff Bezos and Amazon made $70 billion since March. Zuck increased his wealth by $83 billion. Billionaires in the US have gotten $637 billion richer overall. The new transition team is filled with past Facebook, Amazon, big tech, and big pharma execs, combined with a flood of registered corporate lobbyists. Those are all factual stats that no one can disprove. So again, utilizing facts and data is crucial, but I'm weaving this into more of a storytelling format. So then it goes on. Now, cities are being forced to shut down again. Businesses closed again. children out of school and parents out of work again. 8 million Americans have been plunged into poverty due to shutdowns. There's been a 34% increase in the number of Americans taking antidepressants. Yet, strip clubs in California are ordered opened while churches are ordered closed. And you're told by those who have done nothing but profit to cancel your family's day of thankfulness. What will it take for you to start asking questions? So again, this entire post is nothing but factual data that cannot be disputed. That always makes an argument stronger because most people do not have any factual data to support their thoughts or beliefs. And again, I'm not telling anyone what to think here. I end this with a question. What will it take for you to start asking questions? I'm not rallying for everyone to believe the same thing that I do. I'm rallying for people to start thinking for themselves. So again, that is more of a storytelling format that's weaved with nothing but factual data. It is void of opinion, because I am asking them, in conclusion, to start asking questions. I'm never telling them what I feel about these facts and data. The message combined with the image is really reinforcing me and my brand, but it's reinforcing the message of my content. So that's one that I'm going to read for you. The others you may want to check out on video if you're listening to this, but I'm going to talk to you about a few more ways that you can leverage this type of content. Again, tying it into your business. So I talk about the economic support for small businesses during this time, that people need to continue to put their money where it matters. I also was doing a letter writing campaign for the Georgia Senate runoffs, but instead of talking about who I'm writing to or what's in my letters, I'm turning it into a marketing tip, talking about direct mail and using bright envelopes and handwritten addresses is going to increase your open rate. So again, it is a message about what I care about and what I believe in, and the image really supports that, but I'm tying it into my business. I also shared one of my poems called My Business is Essential, which has a very powerful illustration of a local barbershop that has been deemed non-essential from my book. And so again, tying it into your business. Keep it short and to the point. These are several examples of 1 or 2 sentence posts. Some of them are combined with an image that reinforce the message. Some of them are those textile posts. The next is to leverage timely news. So I always feel like it's a great thing to kind of hop on the news cycle, but again, do it in a way that makes sense for you and your business. So one of them is talking about the World Economic Forum and the Wall Street GameStop situation that arose earlier in the year. This is something that I was able to tie into my business because we talked about local credit unions and things that you can do to keep your money more local. But I also was sharing information that most people don't know. They hadn't heard about. They have never heard of the World Economic Forum. And so anytime you're sharing brand new information, and I did this in a video format, you're really able to communicate your message much better. There's also a video that I did the day after January 6th. And instead of making it some political message or about supporting someone or not supporting someone or whatever, again, I make it more void of opinion on specific events and people. I talked about the growing divide between people in our country. What's causing this and how can we fix it? Because truthfully, I could care less about some specific events that take place. I personally believe most of those things are distractions anyway from the most critical issues, but I do care about the way that people treat each other and the way people communicate with each other and the state of our citizens as a whole. And so again, doing that through video is a really powerful way to do it because I'm able to communicate a lot more effectively in a long format, especially on issues that could be taken in the wrong way. And I got tremendous support from that video. People really, really liked what I had to say. And there's a few other examples as well, but those are just a few for you. Also using holidays and national days. This is a really easy one. So on Easter, I'm talking about my faith. On World Day Against Human Trafficking, I am an adamant oppositionist against human trafficking, as I would hope that everyone is. I support OUR in their efforts to save the victims of human trafficking and many other things tied to that. And so I use that day to talk about that specific value and belief that I have. I used International Women's Day to talk about not just what it means to be a woman today, but really all of the significant issues that are facing women right now and the rights that are threatened at this moment, and my desire for people to really wake up and become aware of them and stand up for them instead of just making cute posts about International Women's Day. Also, Small Business Saturday, that's an easy one for me to tie into local businesses and the attack on local businesses from our federal government, from these big tech oligarchs. And it's something that I am extremely passionate about, despite being a digital marketer. It's a hard place to be these days, but I'm doing my best to utilize the tools that I have to help local businesses. I also focus on other people and using user-generated content. So I did a radio interview with a big local talk show host talking about my book, things like gun control, lockdowns, situations in schools, things that can also be very divisive topics. But I shared his photo and just said I had such a great time broadcasting with him yesterday and what we talked about. I also shared a screenshot of me doing a live panel for Real America's Voice, or America's Voice Live. And that was something that, again, could have been used for people to share their own opinions about what they thought about other people on the panel or the news station in general. But again, I'm highlighting that I had a great time and talking about the two other incredible females that were on the panel with me. I also recently got to give Senator Rand Paul my book, meet him in person. I know some people probably don't like him. I love him. He's my Kentucky senator, and he is someone who powerfully uses his voice. But again, I'm focused on what a great time I had meeting him, hearing him speak, and being able to give him my book. So you don't always have to make it some big issue to very clearly share what you believe. So again, my unique medium was my poetry book. I continue to write poetry. I write a lot of other things as well. But this was something that allowed me to become a #1 new release on Amazon and bestseller. And I got tremendous support for this book. I actually had Charlie Kirk endorse this book. I shared a photo of him holding my book up on his show. And this was something that, again, a lot of people could have hopped on and shared their negative opinions, but it is about my book and the awesome support that I received from my book and how this book is something for everyone, regardless of what you believe. So there's always a way, even if you feel like it's a very potentially divisive topic, to talk about this in a way that does not hurt your business, but it helps you grow. So here are just some reviews from my book. These are people that have followed me in the marketing space for years. There are so many people that have turned into clients. I can't tell you how many people that we've spoken to that tell me that one reason they want to work with me is because their values align with mine and they know that I'm fighting for the same things that they're fighting for. So these reviews really illustrate that you can have a business audience and you can talk about something completely outside of business or do something completely outside of business, but you can do it in a way that is thought-provoking, that does allow people to start thinking, but also turns followers into supporters and supporters into buying customers. So the final thing I'll share with you is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that is a quote from Theodore Roosevelt. And it's true. People don't care about just what you know on the business side. They want to know that you care about people, that you care about your community, that you care about your family and your faith and the world you live in and the country and the direction that we're headed. And you can absolutely share those things in a very powerful way that also helps you grow your business. So if you guys are interested in learning about how you can work with somebody who hopefully shares the same or similar values and beliefs that you have, we would love to talk to you. You can go to my website, alliebloydmedia.com. You can schedule a call with us. We would love to talk to you. Lots of different options there. I like to work with people from all backgrounds, of all ideologies, but I do know that people go out of their way to support me when they know that my values do align with their own. And if that's you, I would love to talk to you about that. So thanks so much and have a good one. God bless.